Our first guest is no stranger to the book industry, to this show, or to book lovers everywhere. And we're going to go ahead and bring her on. And she is none other than Victoria Christopher Murray, who I have known since she first wrote her first book. It had an apple on it, I think. Did it?
It had an apple. It was supposed to be an apple. It looked more like an orange. Oh my goodness, Gwen, that's a long time. I wrote that book in 1997.
Okay, and we started our Kush City in 98. So, and then we opened the store in 2000. So, anyway, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for being so patient with me. This has been quite a whirlwind few
Yeah,
months for me.
I said Victoria is so busy that we can't even get her book. Then we get her book and she has to change it. But it doesn't matter because we don't mind being later on in your tour. And you've been all over the place. I've been checking out the pictures and all of the best-selling lists that you've made, and just all of the support that you've gotten. And then the last month, you and Rashonda did the Black Bookstore tour, which thank you for doing that. I don't have a bookstore anymore, but I know how important that is for the bookstores. A lot of the authors, when they get well known, and I consider you in that category. A
Okay.
lot of times they're too, it's like, they're whoever their gatekeepers are that book
Yeah.
them. They don't know the importance of being in the community. And so that was so exciting to see. And
Yeah.
hopefully other authors will team up with people or go by themselves and do the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah. I think we should do that. There's over 150 independent Black bookstores. And so Rashonda and I just touched 8 of them. And so we said, okay, we can go to different parts of the country and, do this little drive through I think we should always use the same hashtag, Black Bookstore Celebration.
Okay.
So that we're all saying the same thing and getting out there, because there's no way Rashonda and I by ourselves will be able to cover 150 stores. And even if we went out to, twice a year to something like that. But if we're all going out there, it would be so wonderful. So
Mm-hmm.
I really want to keep this Black bookstore celebration going.
Now, did you all drive?
So we flew the first leg of it, and then we had to divide it up in half. So the first 4 stores we flew to the different cities. I had to go to Delaware for an event, and then the second one we drove to the cities. It's much, much, much smarter to drive to the cities. Much smarter.
Yeah, I would think so because you
Yeah.
can do other things while you're there.
Yeah.
I love road trips. I
Yeah.
like getting outside of the city on the road. The city traffic is just the pits, but I like getting past the city limits where you're on an open road. You get to see things. Uh, it's no pressure,
Yeah,
you
and you
know.
can leave when you want. Like
Yes,
we had to take
yes.
the early morning flights. Then when you get to the airport, you got to take an Uber to the airport, an Uber from the airport, an Uber to the bookstore. It just got to be too much. And it was always meant to be a road trip. That's what we should model for other authors to do it. But the second half was all driving, no longer than 2 to 3 hours. It was perfect.
Mhm.
And so that's what we will always drive from this point forward.
Now, who did you all just sit around and brainstorm one day and say, why don't we do this? Or how did the idea
So
manifest?
the idea came up with I was doing a book signing with Mahogany Books with Ramunda Young, and I was doing a book signing with her. And she was talking about how my publisher, Berkeley, really does try to include Black bookstores. But this whole big tour I went on, I only went to 2 Black bookstores. And
Okay.
so she was talking about how she was starting a Black bookstore coalition. And I was like, how are you doing a Black bookstore coalition with 5 Black bookstores? I didn't know. And I was talking about how the Black bookstores were the ones that put me on the map. The
Mm.
Black bookstores are the
Mhm.
ones that knew about that book with
Yeah.
the tomato on the cover. It was supposed to be an apple. I remember I cried when I got that. It looked just like a tomato. But it was the Black bookstores who hand sold those books. And she said, Victoria, there are 150 of them out there now. And I was like, what? Because, when in 2007, the whole digital thing came, and when Emma Rogers went out of business and everything, I didn't know we had ever really recovered from that. And so she said, there are 150 of them. They're still struggling. Some are doing better than others. And she and I were just talking, and I said, I think I'm going to try to do a Black bookstore tour. I said, I'll talk to Rashonda. And I said, we ain't going to all 150. That'll take a whole year, which is something maybe somebody should do one year, just go out there and do that. But once I started talking to her, she helped us kind of look at the areas, put it together, and that was it. And so that's something that we're going to do. We've talked to other authors, Bernice McFadden, Donna Hill, or who are interested in doing the same kind of thing. So we're excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I hadn't had a chance to welcome Rhonda to the show. So
Hi, Rhonda.
My co-host, sometimes her work makes her late.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
It's all good. I have a great story about Rhonda. I was a keynote speaker in Germany. And who drove up from Belgium to see me? She drove from Belgium. Like, that's the best story ever. Like, first of all, the fact that you could drive from Belgium to Germany
that's what I loved about Europe.
That by itself was amazing. And then she was like, you ain't coming over here to my continent, and I'm not driving to see you. And she drove from Belgium to Germany to see me. Like, who does that?
That's true. And the answer is Rhonda.
Right? Rhonda
I have a story about Victoria as well. When I first Meet the World Image Solutions, one of my first events was a literary takeover during Essence Festival, and Victoria and Rashonda came down to support that event.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. So I've known both of you for so long.
20 plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and none of us has aged a day.
Not a single day.
Yeah, let's not get crazy.
Not a single day.
So one of the viewers, before we get started, asked, what was the name of your first book?
Temptation.
That's what I remember, but I wanted you to say it, and I'm going to type it in the chat. So she will have that. She's one of our regular viewers.
Interestingly enough, Victoria, I'm sure you heard about the white author on TikTok who got a 2-book deal and has never written a word of his manuscript. I'm not sure if you've heard about him.
No.
Yeah, well, so there was an author. He's a rugby player, so he was already kind of famous in his own right. And he was on The Bachelor Australia. And then he decided on April 22nd, I know it's April 22nd because that's what everybody keeps saying. He was only on TikTok for a month. But on April 22nd, he started his TikTok and he would review books. And he amassed such a following. He has over 170,000 followers, and he probably has 10 videos. And one of the videos, he announced that I think it was Simon & Schuster offered him a 2-book deal, and he hasn't written his manuscript. And somewhere where he was thinking, and he said he was overwhelmed, he said, I can't wait to write this manuscript. And the whole Twitterverse just went crazy, saying, I can't believe that they will offer you a book deal and you've never written a word. It's not fair. There are minority authors out there who are struggling to get book deals. And the first person I thought about was you, Victoria, because you had that series that you started, and two of the books have been written, and you received the movie deal, and then you got a deal for the books that you hadn't even written yet.
I hadn't even written yet. I got a 7-movie deal.
Yes.
And I had written 3 books, so that's not true. That's not true that you can't.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
it.
Everybody went crazy and they just came down on this young man. And I wound up doing a video. I said, sometimes it's not about the fact that he wrote the book or whether he wrote the manuscript or not. He has developed a following. And anybody who's able to get 170,000 followers in just over a month. And the thing is, he also mentioned that he had tried to get a book deal before, so they were already familiar with him.
Yeah. Yeah,
right.
and I think I was able to get the book deal because I had a reputation of finishing projects. So nobody was going to worry about whether or not I was going to write those other books.
Because I think you also have a reputation for like being cloistered when you have books that are due and people can't get in touch with you because you're so serious about meeting your deadlines.
I've heard Victoria was writing her book during the book signing when she came from my event in New York.
I would be sitting down. I don't waste a second. I will write. If I'm waiting for a reader to come up and there's nobody there right now, I will work.
Yeah, well, and that's what it takes. And you know, for the gentleman who's a rugby player, he was a semi-celebrity already.
Yeah.
And so the industry
people were
is
saying
looking
he came out of nowhere, but he didn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He had a following.
He had a following. Yeah. But the book industry, they're looking for easy money. They're looking for easy sales. And people who already have a following, that's easy sales.
Yes, definitely.
You know, you're not having to struggle to build an audience. That's hard. That's hard. So I have my copy of Harlem Rhapsody. It's on my to be read shelf, which is jam-packed, but
I can imagine.
I had to get it. And so, because, you know, historical fiction is my very favorite genre. And you seem like you are one of those people, and I like to do this as well, but you are one of those people that kind of is the first. You're not afraid to be the first out of the gate to do something, because you did it with Christian fiction. You said you didn't even know that that's what it was, but then they said you're a Christian fiction author, and then it became a whole genre. And when you did The Personal Librarian, there were not a lot of books about historical fiction about Black people, let alone Black women. It would be every now and then something would come out. But now there's enough material to where people can just read that.
Yeah.
And that's what the Personal Librarian Facebook group does. They only read historical fiction written by Black women. And I think it's about Black women. So it's very specific. But now they have enough to fill up a year. And still they don't read them all.
And they don't read them all, right?
So,
they have enough to fill up. They can't even get to all the authors because, but you're right. Back in 2020, they wouldn't have been able to have a group like that. And I'm sure the first year that they got started, I think they were just doing it like 6 months at a time because they didn't have it. Now they have more than enough.
Yeah, and what I like about what she does, Tammy Smithers, she really is committed, because they do tours, they go to the city, the location where the book is about, and they do a whole, sometimes they'll have 2 or 3 events in the city that they go to. So she's really all in.
Yeah, she's become a book influencer, and I love that for her.
Yes, she has. So this is the third, if I'm not mistaken, because I've read them all. I haven't read this one yet, but I read The Personal Librarian, of course, and I read the
First Ladies.
First Ladies. Okay, so this is the third one.
Yes.
And so now, were you writing these other books when you thought of this idea, or like, how did you go from the First Ladies
to
to
this
this
one.
book? Mhm.
So this was my first solo historical fiction novel. And so I was already, we were writing the First Ladies at the end. We were doing the edits and everything. And I had to come up with a book idea for my solo project. Marie has been writing her own solo books for a while. And so I wish I could say that it was some scientific, wonderful method that I came up with that I bumped into this thing. Because what I tried to do was I said, okay, what decades do I like to write the most about? And I absolutely love the 20s and the 60s. And I love them for almost the same reasons, because as a writer, very visual, with the fashion and the music and the food and where the people live. You can really, if you can write a paragraph and people will know it's in the 20s, you can write a paragraph and people will know it's in the 60s. And both of those time periods were the rise of Black pride for different reasons, but the rise of Black pride. So those things and the political nature of both of those decades interested me. And so I said, okay, I'm going to look for stories in the 20s and the 60s. And then I said, I'm going to look for them in different cities. And I was thinking New York, because that's where I'm from, and Washington, D.C. and L.A. And when I looked in the 20s in New York, I bumped into the Harlem Renaissance. You just bump it. I mean, because the 20s in New York is the Harlem Renaissance. So I was like, oh, that is a perfect thing for me to write about. I hadn't seen any other historical fiction on the Harlem Renaissance. And so now I needed a woman, and I didn't want to write about Zora or, Nella, the people that you've heard of. I was looking for an undiscovered person, but I didn't know if there would be anyone there. I wasn't even sure if the Harlem Renaissance was going to work. And I Googled, and Google is not how you do your research, but I just Googled women of the Harlem Renaissance, and it came up Langston Hughes, Countee Cullen. And I was like, come on, Google, you're a misogynist. I said women of the Harlem Renaissance. But under Langston Hughes' name, there was a quote that said Jessie Redmond Fawcett was the literary midwife of the Harlem Renaissance. And then underneath that was a podcast by a gentleman by the name of Tremaine Lee. And it was called Harlem on My Mind. And it was a 25-minute podcast about Jessie Redmond Fawcett. I had never heard her name before. After 25 minutes, I knew that was one of the stories I wanted to tell.
Okay, now did you know about her relationship with Du Bois when you picked her, or did you
No.
find that out?
Found that out.
Okay, when you were in the process of
I was in the process. It was early on when I found out about her relationship with Du Bois, but I was really into the story already when I found out she was a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And if I had known she was a member of Delta, I would have never written the story.
Wow.
I promise you, I'm not just saying that. I would have never written a story about a Delta having an affair with W.E.B. Du Bois. I would have,
okay.
Yeah, I would have never wanted to do that.
Well, Deltas like sex too.
Yeah, I know we like sex, but we're not supposed to like sex with the
a little less serious. I can understand what you're saying.
I really, and that's why I'm so grateful to God that I didn't know, because Jessie deserved to have her story told. But I promise you, I would not have written her story if I had known she was a Delta.
Now she would have been one of the early Deltas, because
she was. She was. Yep.
Because
she was at the 5th convention.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that, like, all of the Divine Nine or the sorority seem to. I'm not, but Rhonda is, and my daughter is. My daughter's a Zeta, and all of the founders' days are similar timing.
Yeah,
and
Victoria knows I'm a Zeta.
Yeah, I know you're a Zeta. I know you're a Zeta. And so is Zora Neale Hurston.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's new information for me. Honestly, I'm not Greek, so I don't keep track of who's who.
I don't know. Sometimes you've been knowing something for so long, you think everybody knows. I just automatically thought you knew that she was a Zeta.
Oh, no, I didn't know. Jesse was a Delta, and the only reason I know Victoria's a Delta because she always is posting pictures. And I know Rashonda is an AKA, and you
Right.
all are always posting pictures of where you went. And despite what some people say about Deltas and AKAs not getting along, they do.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's a myth.
So, reading about Jessie and learning about her, where did you start in terms of where did you want to start her story?
So and that's a good question, Gwen, because in historical fiction, I will never write a cradle to a grave story. I'm not looking for
Right.
a biography. That becomes a biography. That's not what I'm trying to do. So with every character, I find out their accomplishment, and then I write it in that time period. So Jessie Redmond Fawcett was a woman of first. She was the first young Black girl to graduate from the Philadelphia High School for Girls, which is still a prestigious school in Philadelphia. She was the first Black woman to graduate from Cornell University. She was the first Black woman to graduate Phi Beta Kappa. She became the first literary editor of the Crisis magazine, and she was the first to discover every single Harlem Renaissance writer that you know. She discovered Countee Cullen when he was 16, Langston Hughes when he was 17, Nella Larson was in her early 30s, Jean Toomer she had taught when he was in high school. Every single Harlem Renaissance writer that became legends, Jessie discovered them, mentored them, edited them, and published them first. And so with that as the framework, that was the time period I wanted to write about. I wanted to write about her time as the literary editor of the Crisis magazine, because during that time, that was the only place where Black people could be published.
Right.
And so it became a big thing to get your work in the Crisis magazine, and Jessie Redmond Fawcett was the gatekeeper. And what I loved about writing this book is we know Langston Hughes as this legend. I got to meet him as a 17-year-old who had never written anything, and she was the one who encouraged him to write. I got to meet Countee Cullen as a 16-year-old who couldn't even keep eye contact with her. I got to meet Nella Larson, who was thinking about writing a book, and if it wasn't for Jessie, she wouldn't have written her first book, Quicksand, which she writes during the book, during Harlem Rhapsody, and then she wrote Passing. So I just loved, it wasn't just Jessie who I discovered. I loved meeting our legends when they were practically children.
So where did you do most of your research? Did you have to do much traveling, or were you able to basically focus on New York City?
I was able to focus on Harlem mostly.
Okay.
And so I moved to Harlem for 2 different time periods, probably a total of 5 weeks. And I wanted to live in Harlem, even though I'm from New York. I never lived in Harlem, but Harlem is like no other place. The streets pulse with their stories. And lots of the buildings were still there. The building where the church where Countee Cullen's father preached, that church is still there. Jessie's first apartment is still there. The YMCA where Langston Hughes lived was still there. And the 135th Street Library, which became the Library of the Harlem Renaissance, is still there. Today, it's known as the Schomburg Research Center.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, and so in the book, it's called the 135th Street Library, the first library to be integrated in New York City. It was the Library of the Harlem Renaissance, and Langston Hughes is buried there. His ashes are there.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's some good information. Now, does she live with Edgecombe Avenue?
That's where W.E.B. lived. She lived on 7th Avenue.
Okay, all right. I have a customer. As a matter of fact, and I'll talk to you about it now and after the show. One of our longtime customers that's been buying books from us since we started Kush City. She lives in New York on Edgecombe Avenue.
Yeah, 409 Edgecombe is the big one. 409 Edgecombe. Yeah.
So she's been in the same co-op for 60 years.
Yeah.
And she's 82.
That's a world famous building.
Yeah, and she talks about that all the people that have lived there.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
For
And she wants an autographed copy of your book. So I told her you were going to be on the show, and we're going to figure out how to get that to
we
her.
will definitely do that. We will do that.
So we don't have that much time left. I want to know about your tour and all the travel, because you did a lot of work promoting this book.
Yeah.
What's a
Yeah.
couple of things that happened on your tour that were interesting or exceptional?
Well, it stood out. My launch party was at the Kennedy Center, which was amazing. And we had it was my chapter for Delta Sigma Theta. 300 people were there, dressed up like it was 1919. Abby Phillip was my in conversation person, the moderator. So that was really cool. People flew in from all parts of the country. Then the next night, so you think you can't get any better than the Kennedy Center? The one place where I wanted to sign was at the Schomburg, because that was the library of the Harlem Renaissance. That's where Jessie met all of the authors. That's where, she took them. They had poetry readings there and everything. That's where Langston Hughes, as I said, is buried. And they usually don't take books like mine, because that's kind of, they're kind of poo-poo she, but they knew I had been researching there, because the lady knew I was the co-author of The Personal Librarian. And they knew I was doing research there. So when I asked to sign there, my publicist tried to get them, and they were saying no, no, no. Then they said yes. So my second night was at the Schomburg. So the Kennedy Center, the Schomburg, all the things in between. Then one night I was supposed to do something with you, and I ended up speaking at the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation.
Nice.
Amazing, 1,400 people. I sat next to Neil Bush at lunch. He was the person that put it together. That DNA and that Bush family runs deep, man, because I thought he was his brother. He looked just like George W. He laughed like this, the way they look. And so, but a wonderful program. I was on with Kelsey Grammer. So that's not too bad with his book. So that was good. So I've had such wonderful, those are just 3 of some of the top ones. I signed recently at the historic Alfred Street Baptist Church here in the Washington, D.C. area. That was amazing. So I've had and one of the best things for me, I'm from an HBCU. Hampton always welcomes me back. Always. Like that is a done deal. But I have my MBA from New York University Stern School of Business, one of the top 20 MBA schools in the country. When they called me back this year to speak there, and now they have me doing it in September at 2 other locations, that was a big honor. So I've had some really amazing signings. And you know what it feels like? It feels like like I'm opening a Christmas gift. I grew up on Temptation, right? And I'm used to, 20, 30, maybe 40 people showing up for a book signing. But now it's always 200, 300 people. And it's still just amazing. Like a small signing for me now is 100 people. And so I feel like it's God put this gift here, and every night I get to unwrap it.
Oh, and now I don't know if we had the conversation.
Oh no, it's just come a long way. I remember
came a long way, right?
And I know our time is just about up.
Yes.
But you offer a piece of encouragement. There are a lot of authors who are watching. There are some authors out there, let's be real, who think that they should have your level of success right out the gate.
Yeah, she's an overnight sensation.
I'm an overnight success after 28 years. An overnight success. Man, after 28 years, this is what I will tell people, because it gets really hard out here to do this thing. And I've been doing this thing. We're laughing about it, but you two know the struggles I've been through over these 28 years. And when the digital market came and kind of blew us all up and messed up everything. And there were so many times, I'm not even kidding you, where I wanted to quit. The only reason I'm still doing this is because I was like, I can't do nothing else. I had been writing for so long. What was I going going to leave and go do. I'm not kidding. I wanted to give up. But I always think about the fact that if I had given up, I wouldn't be a 2 times New York Times bestselling author. I can't even tell you how many weeks I've been on USA Today bestsellers list. I wouldn't have 5 movies on Lifetime. I wouldn't have all of that, an NAACP Image Award. I wouldn't have all of that if I had given up. And so that's what I will tell people, that your overnight success will come. I also will tell people I didn't make New York Times bestsellers list for the first time until I was 65. And so you are never too old.
Yeah,
that's what I'll tell people.
Late.
It's never too late.
Mm-hmm. So, well, in closing, I don't know if we ever had the conversation that I told you I'm from Newport News. Did I ever tell you that?
No.
My brothers went to Hampton. So anyway, that's another. I'm from Newport News. That's my hometown. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, that's funny.
Well, I know you're having Brandon coming on next, so
yes,
I am.
So I just Harlem Rhapsody is available wherever books are sold. Go get your copy, and I'll be in touch about the autograph copy for my good client who was at the Schomburg when you were there.
Oh, was she?
She went to the event at the Schomburg.
And they sold out before I started speaking.
Yes, and she said that they sold out, so she didn't get her copy.
Yeah, so they sold out. Well, thank you to 2 of my favorite ladies. So good to see both of you. Gwen, thank you for being in my corner for the 28 years. That's how I became an overnight success, because you have been in my corner for 28 years. And Rhonda, ain't nobody else ever have driven from Belgium to Germany to see me. That you are the only person who has ever done that for me. So thank you.
I was honored to do it.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on the show again, and we'll be on the lookout for your next book, which I know is somewhere in the future, somewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm working on edits now. So thank you, ladies.
Okay, have a great
night. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.